Hello everyone, welcome into the studios of WJHI at Jeffersonville High School. I am Clay Abels with School Talk as we welcome in today our Superintendent of Greater Clark County Schools, Mr. Mark Laughner. How are we doing today, sir?
Great, thank you for having me back here.
I know it's the start of the year as we're about just a little bit less than a week away from the start of school. Let's get to this. I know a ton on the agenda today with the school plan, masks, bus policy, the 5-year plan. Let's start with back to school for you. Last year, I know, was probably the most difficult year of anybody for education, especially for you going into really, it felt like your first full year of being superintendent. How much more effective and easier has it been since the summer for you to finally get things back into a normal rhythm?
Well, first of all, we spent a tremendous amount of time last summer just putting plans together for us to return to school, and really this summer we've just been tweaking those plans because we thought what we used last year was effective. We got through the school year last year safely. We were the first school district in the state of Indiana, public school district in the state of Indiana, to return to school. So we feel like the plans we had in place last year were really good plans. We're tweaking them a little bit, and we feel like we're ready to go.
I know for one of the plans you have to tweak, and certainly something that's come up a lot lately, is mask policy. Let's start there. What is the mask policy for students and staff? Start with that, and then we can go a little bit more into the specifics.
This year, the mask policy, we recommend that students that haven't been vaccinated wear masks. However, it will be optional. So it's really up to the parent, and the child on whether or not they're going to wear a mask. And we felt like that's what our parents in the community wanted. We feel like that's the appropriate way to go. And I will say though, if the county health department or the state health department or by governor executive order changes that in terms of turning it back into a mandate that all students wear masks, then we'll follow that. But right now it's optional, and the parents will make that decision.
Now, the optional part, I know you mentioned, does that say the same for the bus policy? What is bus policy for students riding into school on buses for transportation?
That's a very good point, Clay. The Federal Department of Transportation has guidelines and rules on all transit, throughout the United States. So students have to wear masks on the bus. That's part of public transportation, and that's a federal guideline that everyone, if you're on a bus, you have to wear a mask. So that will include, our buses, our students also.
I know you just mentioned as well, you certainly take a lot of advice, and certainly, you have to go with governor's orders from the State Department and CDC and all the way through. I know we've seen COVID numbers go up a little bit here lately. Is it something where, we've talked about the process before, but do you check daily, or how does it work in terms of the policy at the end could be fluid just because we have to watch out for numbers?
Yes. Yeah, and it is concerning that cases are going up because of the new variant. We're in constant contact with Dr. Yazel and the local county health department. We are tracking those numbers, not only within our school district as far as students and staff, but also locally. So we'll continue like we did last year, that Dr. Yazel and the county health department will be our guide in how we get through this. And if we have to adjust, we will. But we feel good about where we're at right now in terms of starting school.
Let's stay on the topic of COVID and go with COVID protocols. I know last year was super difficult trying to manage quarantining and exposure and how long, and all of the seating charts was certainly a big part of the school year. What, from the standpoint of quarantining this year, what are the policies and guidelines that people need to be aware of?
And those things are still in place in terms of quarantining and exposures. We still will have to do contact tracing. If a student is considered an exposure, they will be quarantined. Now the difference this year is if a student or staff member can show that they've been vaccinated and they don't have any symptoms, then they won't have to be quarantined. So that's the change this year, and we're not going to be in the business as a school district of asking every individual that comes into our school, whether it's student or staff, if they've been vaccinated or not. However, my assumption is students want to be in school and the staff want to be at school working. So if they show us that they've been vaccinated, and then that could keep them from being quarantined if they're considered an exposure.
For you, I know you just talked about vaccinations. Let's go to that, sticking with the topic of COVID. I know we're trying to get the vaccinations up from a country standpoint, certainly state, city, all the way down through. talk about what is Greater Clark doing in terms of distributing vaccinations. I know the CHIRP program is something that was in play. What are the plans there to try to get people access to vaccinations that maybe haven't had the chance to yet?
Yeah. Well, and actually last spring in Greater Clark, we had our own vaccination clinics for students. We're looking at doing that again. Right now they're so widely available throughout our community, I don't know that we will. One thing that may change that in terms of us as a school district offering vaccinations is once they allow students under the age of 12 to be vaccinated, we may offer another clinic within our schools, obviously with parent permission, but we're looking at that once that age restriction comes off of students under the age of 12, that we do it within our schools and try to get that done a little faster for our students and our parents.
Here with a socially distanced production of School Talk at WJHI Studios, I'm Clay Abels. Alongside me today, the Superintendent of Greater Clark County Schools. Now switching off the topic of COVID, let's look a little bit forward to the future of Greater Clark County Schools. I know you certainly have had a lot on your agenda in terms of facility plans and the future 5-year plan of Greater Clark, and there's been a lot of talk about what those details are and how things are going to be moving forward. Speak first about, for anybody that doesn't know, about the 5-year plan and your future vision for Greater Clark.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I felt was very important when I came into this position as superintendent is that we come up with a plan to address our facility issues. And that's what we're trying to do with this 5-year facility plan, the new one. And why it's a new one is because we just completed a facility study with Lancer plus BV, which is an architectural group out of Indianapolis that does a lot of school business. I will say that there was also an architectural study done in 2014 that studied every building in our corporation. The Lancer BV study that we just completed also did that. And it's interesting that both studies essentially said the same thing, that we have a significant number of things to take care of in our district in terms of facilities. We have some aging facilities, aging infrastructure, aging HVAC systems, that we need to take care of, as a district moving forward. And so, the genesis of the plan came from those facility studies, not only from 2014, but most recently the one that was just completed. Now, the other thing that we did is we had some other studies done by a group called Policy Analytics, which looks at your assessed value projections over the next 10 years. They can project out what they think your net assessed value growth will be over a 10-year period, which really looks really good for us because we have all the new housing and apartments going in. We also did a demographic study in the last year that shows where our growth will be throughout the district and how much growth we'll get over the next 10 years. And so we feel good about those studies because it really gave us great information about where to go, in terms of the future. And then the last thing we did just here recently is we created a facility task force of 63 community members that met on 5 different occasions. The last 3 really being the meetings where they looked at the facility plan and helped create a priority list of findings of what we needed to address. And those meetings were excellent. The facility task force group gave us great feedback on what we should focus on, what the priorities should be. And so, the creation of this 5-year facility plan came from all of that. The studies, the task force, what we're seeing throughout our district that we need. And we feel good about the plan. It's a very comprehensive plan that we think will really move Greater Clark forward in a positive way.
I'll start with this. I know you mentioned a lot there in talking about the facilities plan. There's 2 topics I really want to touch on. Is when people ask us about the facility plan and the 5-year plan in total, they talk about having a voice and where does the money go and how does that whole start. Let's start off with this, with the money. I know everybody always sees facility plans. They think, oh, my taxes are going to go through the roof. What am I supposed to do? Talk about how you guys are trying to avoid that, keep the tax rate in the same area code, and you can get that building done around that.
Yeah, and that's the neat thing about all this in terms of what we can do with this 5-year facility plan is because our net assessed value growth has gone up so much over the last 2 or 3 years. Just this past year, the net assessed value in Greater Clark went up 8.1%. The year before that, it went up a little over 5%. we can do these projects, everything on that list, the 5-year facility plan, without raising the tax rate at all. So these will be tax neutral projects where nobody will see a tax rate increase. Now I want to be clear, the school district, I as your superintendent, we do not control your assessed value. If the county assessor increases your assessed value, that's not something the school district controls. That's the county assessor's office. We control the tax rate. Right now the tax rate is $1.10. When I took this position 2.5 years ago, I went out and did strategic planning meetings in the community and stated at that time 2 years ago that we would set the tax rate at $1.10 and keep it there. And we can do all these projects and keep the tax rate at $1.10. So I hope the community supports us from the standpoint of these are going to be tax neutral projects. There's not going to be a negative impact on the taxpayer. So why wouldn't we support our schools, try to create better learning environments, better facilities for our students and our staff?
Now we'll go to the second topic there after talking about the financial side, community involvement. You've built these task forces. What went into building the task force? Why you selected those people? And then lastly, the most important thing, how can the community have a voice and get involved and have their opinion inside the plan?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we wanted to make sure with our task force meetings that we had representatives from every community. So we did have representatives from New Washington, Jeffersonville, Clarksville, and also Charlestown. And it was very, very good representation of, we had business people, real estate agents, business owners. We had a very good group of people that came from different backgrounds. And so that was a very great process for us. I mean, they actually changed my mind on a couple things. A lot of people think those task force are, just we already know what we're going to do and everything's already predetermined, and the task force is a sham or a fraud. That wasn't the case here. I mean, the task force gave us good input, and like I said, they changed my mind on a few things in terms of the direction we need to go.
The last question I'll ask you here before we close out, what do you think this impact will be? I know you talked when you went around and had some conversations that this is an opportunity not only to build the schools up, but to build enrollment. And that's certainly a big part in terms of bringing money into the school systems and building bigger facilities and building better schools. What do you think this facility project can impact Greater Clark positively for the next 5, 10, and even longer?
Well, I think it's 3 different things, really. Number one, you want to provide your students with the best learning environment that you can provide, and your staff, to teach in. Okay, so that's number one. Whether it's air quality, the space, the carpet, the lighting, we need to look at that. The second thing is enrollment. We're in an open enrollment environment in Indiana. Parents drive around and look at facilities, and if you don't have nice facilities, they're not likely to enroll their child in your school. Yes, academics is the most important thing, but a lot of parents just look at the facilities, especially the outside facilities. So it's important that we monitor that, stay on top of it, and make sure that we have modern, nice facilities for our students and our staff and our communities. And the third thing is financial. When you do renovations and you put in new HVAC equipment or you build new schools, they're more efficient. Okay, and for example, if in the 5-year facility plan, we would like to build a new elementary school on the Wilson property and then merge Wilson Elementary and Thomas Jefferson Elementary together. Now that's going to take a few years for us to get that done if everything goes accordingly. What that allows you to do financially is it allows you to be more efficient with your staffing, your transportation, your food service, and all those things. Well, if you can be more efficient with that piece of your budget in terms of being more financially efficient, then that frees up resources to direct more money to the classroom. Whether that be in programming, equipment for students, or teacher pay. I mean, right now across the state, there's a teacher shortage issue. A lot of that is because of teacher pay. So we need to raise our teacher pay so we can attract the best and brightest. So part of this plan, looks at all those things: the learning environment, enrollment, and also financial, part of it, in terms of we want to be efficient with our financial resources, and we want to direct as many financial resources as we can to the classroom and get it in the hands of students and teachers.
Well, we covered a lot of it going forward today with the 5-year plan, COVID protocols, the start of school. I'll let you wrap it up here before I do my final piece, Mr. Laughner. A message to parents, staff, students, anything you want to say before school starts. Crazy that we're already starting here in a couple of days, but anything you'd like to say to the greater Clark community?
Yeah, just we're going to try to communicate with you as much as we possibly can, our principals and from the district level, on what's going on. I guess I will say just all this as we go through this, especially first semester, just understand that things are subject to change, and we'll keep you updated. But right now, we feel good about where we're at and where we're going in terms of the start of school, and look forward to the start of school. The other thing I failed to mention on the facility plan is we have 3 meetings coming up, August 17th, 18th, and 19th. They're community meetings where the community can come and ask me and the rest of my cabinet team questions about the facility plan, the financial part of it. We will have one of them at the Fetter Center, one at Charlestown High School, and one at New Washington High School. I believe the first one is August 17th at New Washington Middle High from 6 to 8. The second one is August 18th at the Fetter Center, I believe, and then the last one is August 19th at Charlestown High School. All 3 of them are 6 to 8, and we will send out more information on that to all of our parents if they want to come. We'll do an email, school messenger message, and we'll put it on social media too. But we want you to come, and we want you to ask questions about our facility plan. We want to make sure people understand that we can do these projects without increasing the tax rate or negatively impacting the taxpayer.
Well, Mr. Laughner, appreciate you coming in. I know it's the start of the school year, but we look forward to having you in throughout and doing many more editions of School Talk.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That is Mark Laughner, our superintendent of Greater Clark County Schools, joining us today on this socially distanced production. Thank you for tuning in here to School Talk on July 23rd. You can rewatch this program throughout the week on cable 184, also on the radio. You can listen in on 98.5 FM and WJHI.com throughout the week, and available on social media. We'll put the program up on WJHI on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So for Mark Laughner, I'm Clay Abel saying so long here from the WJHI studios, and we'll see you next time on School Talk with WJHI.